The steel hangar doors scream open. That sound, metal grinding against rusted tracks, it cuts through the rain, through the military band's brass section, through the 1,000 voices cheering in the cold. I stand in the front row of the receiving line, boots locked at attention, rain dripping off the brim of my service cap. My dress blues are pristine. The medals on my chest, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service, 3 campaign ribbons, they catch the dull fluorescent light bleeding from the hangar ceiling. I earned every single one of them. So did the man stepping off that C-17 transport plane. Except I wrote the strategies. He just smiled for the cameras. Major Julian Thorne descends the cargo ramp like a god returning from Olympus. The crowd surges. Flashbulbs explode in white bursts. The rain turns the tarmac into a black mirror, reflecting his polished boots, his perfect posture, the American flag patch on his shoulder. He's wearing his full dress uniform, chest heavy with medals I know he doesn't deserve. The hero of Sector 4. The man who single-handedly coordinated the evacuation of 300 civilians under hostile fire. I was the one on the radio. I was the one calculating the drone strike windows. I was the one who stayed awake for 72 hours straight making sure he didn't get anyone killed. He doesn't look at me. His eyes scan the crowd, past the general, past the press corps with their microphones extended like weapons, past the rows of officers saluting in unison. His gaze lands somewhere behind me, near the landing gear still dripping hydraulic fluid onto the concrete. Then he runs. Not toward me. Not toward the general waiting with a handshake and a medal box. He runs toward her. She's standing in the shadow of the aircraft's massive wheel well, and she's wearing red. A dress so bright, so violently out of place on this gray military base that it looks like a wound. Scarlet fabric clinging to her body, heels too high for the wet pavement, blonde hair curled in waves that don't belong in the rain. Elena Vance. His high school sweetheart. The one who got away. The one I thought was ancient history. Julian drops to his knees in front of her. No, not in front of her. In front of the small boy clutching her leg. The child is maybe 5 years old, dark hair, wide eyes, wearing a miniature suit that looks rented. Julian wraps his arms around the boy and sobs. Loud, theatrical sobs that the microphones catch perfectly. My son, he chokes out, voice cracking with Oscar-worthy precision. I'm finally home. I'm finally home to my real family. The crowd erupts. Applause thunders through the hangar. Cameras flash in a strobe light frenzy. Someone in the press corps yells. The hero reunites with his son. A woman near me is crying, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The military band switches to a softer melody. Something sentimental, something that makes this look like a Hallmark movie. I stand there, rain running down my face, and I don't move. Because I'm doing the math. 5 years old. That would mean conception 7 years ago, right before his last deployment. Right after we got married. Right after I signed my life over to covering for his incompetence, to ghostwriting his after-action reports, to making sure his career survived his own stupidity. The general steps forward, beaming. Julian's godfather. The man who promoted him over 12 more qualified officers because they went to the same prep school. Ladies and gentlemen, the general announces into a microphone, this is what we fight for. Family. Love. The bonds that bring our heroes home. More applause. More cameras. I break formation. My boots make wet slapping sounds on the tarmac as I walk toward them. The crowd noise dims, people noticing, whispers spreading like wildfire. Julian is still kneeling, still hugging the boy, but his eyes flick up to me. For 1 second, I see it. Panic. Calculation. Then he smiles. Sarah, he says, standing, wiping fake tears from his face. I was going to tell you. I wanted it to be private, but you wanted the cameras rolling first, I finish. My voice is flat. Cold. I've spent 7 years in tactical operations. I know how to strip emotion from a situation report. I reach into my jacket and pull out the manila envelope. It's sealed, official, the paper slightly damp from the rain. I hold it out to him. What is this? He asks, still performing for the audience. Eviction notice. I say clearly, loudly enough for the front row to hear. For fraud, identity theft, and falsifying military family benefits to secure housing and dependent allowances for a child you never reported until today. The applause stops. The silence that follows is total. Even the rain seems quieter. Julian's smile freezes. Elena's hand tightens on the boy's shoulder. The general takes a step forward, his face turning the color of a heart attack. You're making a scene, Commander Cross, Julian hisses, dropping the grieving father act. You're embarrassing yourself. No, I say, and I shove the envelope against his chest. I'm embarrassing you. There's a difference. I turn to walk away. That's when the general grabs my arm. His fingers dig into my bicep hard enough to bruise. He leans in close, breath reeking of cigar smoke and scotch. You just made a mistake you won't survive, Commander, he whispers. My office. Now. The cameras are still rolling. The crowd is still watching. And Julian is still holding that little boy, a child I've never seen before, a child whose existence was hidden from me for 5 years, like a shield. I pull my arm free from the general's grip and walk toward the administration building. Behind me, I hear Julian's voice rising again, back to the script. She's struggled with our situation. Infertility is hard on a marriage. I ask for your understanding during this difficult time. The lie is so smooth, so practiced. And the crowd believes him. They always believe the hero. If you've ever been erased by someone you built, if you've ever watched a man take credit for your war, don't skip ahead. Because what I found in that scrapyard will destroy more than just his career. Keep watching. The general's office smells like leather and smoke. He doesn't offer me a seat. I stand at attention in front of his desk. Solid oak, polished to a mirror shine, covered with framed photos of him shaking hands with senators and generals. There's one of him and Julian at Julian's commissioning ceremony, arms around each other's shoulders like father and son. I'm not in any of the photos. The general lights a cigar. The flame from his lighter flickers in the dim room, casting shadows across his face. He takes a long drag, exhales slowly, and the smoke curls toward the ceiling like a ghost. 7 years, he says finally. 7 years you've been in this unit, Commander Cross. And in one moment, you throw it all away. Sir, I didn't ask you to speak. His voice is quiet, controlled, deadly. You humiliated my godson in front of the press. You disrupted a homecoming ceremony. You made baseless accusations about a decorated officer and his family. The child was never reported, I say, keeping my voice steady. No dependent enrollment. No family care plan. No allotment transfers. That's a violation of. Enough. He stands, and suddenly the room feels smaller. He walks around the desk, cigar still burning between his fingers. Major Thorne explained the situation. The mother kept the child secret. He only learned of the boy's existence 3 months ago. He was protecting the child's privacy during the paternity process. That's not. I said enough. He stops inches from me. I can see the broken blood vessels in his nose, the age spots on his temples. You want to know what I see when I look at you, Cross? I see a jealous woman who can't accept that her husband moved on. I see someone willing to destroy a hero's reputation because she can't give him what he needs. The words hit like a physical blow. You have 30 minutes to clear your belongings from base housing, he continues. You are hereby relieved of duty pending a full investigation into conduct unbecoming an officer. Your security clearance is suspended. Your access credentials are revoked effective immediately. My chest tightens. Sir, you can't. I can. And I am. He walks back to his desk, presses a button. Security, please escort Commander Cross to her quarters and then off base. She is no longer authorized. The door opens. Two MPs step inside, hands resting on their belts near their sidearms. I look at the general one more time. I served this unit for 7 years. I ran the operations that kept your golden boy alive. You know that. What I know, he says, sitting down and picking up a pen, is that Major Thorne is a hero. And you are a distraction. Dismissed. 28 minutes later, I'm standing outside the base gate. The rain is heavier now, turning the world into a grey blur. The MPs wouldn't let me take my car. It's registered to Julian, apparently. They gave me a plastic bag for my personal items. A toothbrush, a change of clothes, my phone charger. Everything else, 7 years of my life, is locked inside that base. I check my phone. My hands are shaking from the cold. Bank account balance. $0. Transaction history. Transfer to Thorne Family Trust. $47,000. Timestamp. 14:37. 2 hours before Julian's plane landed. I stare at the screen until the rain makes it unreadable. A car passes me on the highway. Black sedan. Tinted windows. Through the rain-streaked glass, I see them. Julian in the driver's seat. Elena in the passenger seat, laughing, her head thrown back. The boy in the back seat, staring out the window at nothing. They don't see me standing there. Of course they don't. I'm not a person anymore. I'm a problem they've already solved. The taillights disappear into the rain. I start walking. The iron graveyard doesn't have a real name. On official maps, it's listed as Decommissioned Naval Salvage Yard No. 4. But everyone who's ever served near the coast knows it by its real name, the place where warships go to die. I reach it after walking 3 miles in the rain. The fence is chain link, 12 feet high, topped with rusted barbed wire that hasn't been maintained in a decade. There's a gap where the links have pulled apart, widened by years of scavengers and vagrants. I squeeze through, feel the metal scrape against my shoulders, tear a hole in my dress uniform jacket. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Inside the fence, the world changes. Skeletal cranes rise against the dark sky like the ribs of ancient beasts. Ship hulls, massive, hollowed-out things, lean at impossible angles, half buried in black mud. The ground is a maze of rusted metal, shattered concrete, and pools of oily water that reflect the clouds like mercury. Everything is decay. Everything is ending. The rain turns the rust into rivers of orange. It runs down the sides of a destroyer's hull, stains the ground, makes the whole place look like it's bleeding. I walk deeper into the graveyard. My boots sink into the mud with each step, cold, thick, sucking at my feet. The smell hits me, salt, oil, oxidized metal, and something else. Something organic and rotting. The smell of things left to decompose. I pass a submarine conning tower lying on its side, the hatch still open like a screaming mouth. I pass a stack of anchor chains, each link bigger than my torso, piled in a heap like a giant's discarded jewelry. I pass a section of aircraft carrier deck, the yellow guideline markings still visible, leading to nowhere. Then I see it. The fuselage. A C-130 cargo plane, gutted and stripped, sitting on collapsed landing gear. The tail section is missing, the cockpit windows are shattered, but the main body is intact. I know this plane. I flew in it 4 years ago during a supply run to a forward operating base in the Helmand province. Julian was on that flight. He got airsick, threw up in a helmet bag, and I had to clean it up while he joked with the crew. The memory makes my jaw clench so hard my teeth ache. I climb inside through the open cargo ramp. The interior is stripped. No seats, no cargo netting, no equipment. Just empty aluminum ribs and sections of floor plating with holes rusted through. Rain drips from a dozen leaks in the ceiling, creating a rhythm, irregular, maddening. Drip, drip, drip. I find a corner that's relatively dry and sit down with my back against the cold metal wall. My phone is at 12% battery. No service. No Wi-Fi. I look at the last messages I sent this morning, back when I still thought today would end differently. Me to Julian, 7:45. Landing at 1600 hours, right? I'll be in the front row. Love you. Read at 8:03. No reply. I laugh. It's a broken sound that echoes in the empty fuselage. He read it. He read it and got on that plane knowing exactly what he was going to do. He knew I'd be standing there. He knew I'd be humiliated. He wanted the cameras rolling when he walked past me. The cold seeps into my bones. I pull my knees to my chest, wrap my arms around them. My dress blues are soaked through, the fabric clinging to my skin. I'm shivering, but I can't tell if it's from the temperature or the shock. Outside, the rain intensifies. Thunder rolls across the scrapyard, low and threatening. I close my eyes. In the darkness behind my eyelids, I see Julian's face. Not the Julian from the tarmac, the crying, theatrical Julian. I see the Julian from 3 years ago, after the ambush in Kandahar. He'd frozen during the firefight, completely locked up, and I had to take command. I called in the air support, coordinated the extraction, got everyone out alive. When we got back to base, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "I would have died without you. You saved me, Sarah. I owe you everything." He meant it then. I think he meant it. A sound breaks through the rain, metal scraping against metal. My eyes snap open. I'm not alone. Someone else is in the graveyard. And they're coming closer. I don't move. In tactical operations, the first rule of survival is, assess before you act. I control my breathing, slow my heartbeat, and listen. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. More than one person. They're moving through the scrapyard methodically, sweeping the area. I hear the crunch of boots on gravel, the splash of water as someone steps into a puddle. Then voices, low, professional, clipped with radio discipline. Section 3 clear. Moving to Section 4. Copy. Thermals showing something near the aircraft remains. Military contractors. Maybe private security. Definitely not scavengers. They're looking for something. Or someone. I press myself flat against the fuselage wall, into the darkest corner where the overhead ribs create shadows. My hand instinctively reaches for my sidearm, but I don't have one anymore. They took it when they discharged me. The footsteps get closer. Check inside the plane. Thermal signatures weak. Could be an animal. I have maybe 30 seconds before they find me. My eyes adjust to the darkness, scanning the interior of the fuselage for options. There's a hatch in the floor near my feet, access to the wheel well. I remember it from the supply flight years ago. The crew chief used it to store contraband cigarettes. Julian used it for something else. The memory hits me like voltage. 3 years ago, after a classified operation went sideways, Julian became paranoid. He thought someone was investigating him. He hid something in this plane, claimed it was insurance in case everything went to hell. He made me help him, made me keep watch while he stuffed a waterproof case into the wheel well. Then he never mentioned it again. I thought he'd forgotten. But if they're here, searching. I drop to my knees and claw at the hatch. It's rusted shut, the bolts oxidized into the metal. I pull a jagged piece of torn aluminum from the floor and use it as a pry bar. The metal bites into my palms. I feel skin tear, feel blood mixing with the rust and rain. The hatch groans. Did you hear that? A firm. Northeast corner. Move in. I rip the hatch open. The wheel well yawns beneath me, a dark cavity smelling of mildew and hydraulic fluid. I drop into it just as flashlight beams cut through the fuselage interior above me. Clear. Must have been the wind. Check the wheel wells. My heart hammers against my ribs. I'm crouched in a space barely 3 feet high, water up to my ankles, surrounded by rusted landing gear mechanisms. The flashlight beam cuts through a gap in the hatch, a blade of light sweeping inches from my face. My hand touches something solid. A case. Hard plastic. A Pelican 1200, waterproof. Practically indestructible. I pull it toward me slowly, silently. The case is locked, but the combination lock is cheap, 4 digits. I try his birthday. Nothing. I try our anniversary. Nothing. Wheel wells are clear. Nothing here but standing water and trash. Copy. Let's check the next sector. The footsteps retreat. I wait 5 full minutes after they're gone before I breathe normally again. Then I examine the lock again in the darkness. 4 digits. Something Julian would remember but wouldn't write down. I think about the man I married. Arrogant, sentimental, narcissistic. I enter 0-4-0-4. April 4th. The day he got his commission. The day his career began. The lock clicks open. Inside the case, protected by foam inserts, documents, medical files in plastic sleeves, a leather ledger, military issue, the kind used for field logs, a USB drive. I pull out my phone, use the dying battery to provide light. 12% left. The first document is medical. Official military hospital letterhead. I read the header. Patient, Major Julian Thorne procedure, bilateral vasectomy date, April 17, 2018 surgeon, Captain Robert Chen, MD result, successful. Patient counseled on permanence of procedure. Motility test at 6-week follow-up showed 0 sperm count. Procedure confirmed irreversible. I read it 3 times. April 2018. 7 years ago. The boy is 5 years old. That would mean conception in 2020, 2 years after Julian was surgically sterilized. The boy can't be his. Biologically impossible. My hands are shaking so hard I almost drop the phone. I set the medical file aside and open the ledger. The pages are filled with entries in Julian's handwriting. Dates, locations, quantities, dollar amounts. But these aren't mission logs. These are manifests. Item: morphine sulfate. Quantity: 200 units. Source: FOB Kandahar Supply Depot. Destination: Karachi. Buyer: pending. Value: $15,000. Item: weapon optics, ACOG scopes. Quantity: 30 units. Source: equipment return fraud. Destination: Dubai. Buyer: pending. Value: $22,000. Item: surgical kits, trauma. Quantity: 15 complete sets. Source: medical convoy loss, ambush cover. Destination: Mexico City. Buyer: V. Value: $40,000. V. I flip forward, find the buyer's full notation. Primary buyer/courier: V. Vance, Elena. Payment method: cryptocurrency. Cut: 30%. Elena isn't his lost love. She's his fence. They've been running a black market supply theft operation for years, stealing from combat zones, selling to cartels, using military transport to move the goods. And the boy. The boy is a prop. A human shield to trigger compassionate reassignment, to secure family housing, to create a sympathetic narrative that would protect them from scrutiny. Who investigates a hero reuniting with his long-lost son. My phone screen dims. 5% battery remaining. I stuff the documents back into the case and seal it. Above me, through the gaps in the fuselage, I hear an engine. Headlights cut through the rain. Not searchlights. Vehicle headlights. A black SUV, tactical model, no plates visible, rolls silently into the scrapyard. They're back. And this time, they're not sweeping. They know exactly where I am. 3 men exit the SUV. They don't announce themselves. They don't call out. They move like operators, tactical formation, weapons low ready, scanning sectors. 2 carry suppressed carbines. The third has something on his hip, a sidearm, maybe a taser. Through the gap in the wheel well hatch, I watch them approach the fuselage. "She's in there," one of them says. His voice is American, Midwest accent, flat effect. "Contractor, not active duty." Thermal shows one signature. "Stationary. Rules of engagement," the second asks. "Retrieve the package." Witness is negotiable. Negotiable means expendable. I clutch the Pelican case against my chest and look for exits. The wheel well has 2 access points. The hatch above me, where they're heading, and an emergency maintenance panel on the underside of the fuselage. I crawl toward it, the case scraping against metal. Every sound feels amplified. Above me, I hear them climb into the cargo bay. Empty. But she was here. Recent. Check the wheel wells. Now. I find the maintenance panel. It's held by 4 rusted bolts. I wedge my fingers under the edge and pull. The metal tears at my fingertips, nails bending back, but the panel doesn't budge. Footsteps directly overhead. Opening the hatch. Light floods the wheel well, a tactical flashlight, 1,000 lumens, white and blinding. I throw my arm up to shield my eyes. There. Go. I kick the maintenance panel with both feet. Once. Twice. On the third kick, the rusted bolts shear off and the panel swings open. I drop through, the Pelican case tucked under one arm, and fall 6 feet onto mud. The landing drives the breath from my lungs. I roll, sucking air, and scramble to my feet. Behind me, I hear them dropping through the wheel well hatch. I run. The scrapyard is a nightmare maze at night. I sprint between ship hulls and crane wreckage, my boots sliding in the mud. Rain hammers down, reducing visibility to 20 feet. I vault over a fallen gangway, duck under a section of chain fence, weave through a forest of I-beams leaning at drunken angles. Footsteps behind me. Closing. Northeast corner. She's heading for the perimeter. I cut left, toward a section of partially demolished submarine hull. The curved metal creates a tunnel, too narrow for them to sweep in formation. I dive inside. The interior smells like seawater and corrosion. I press myself against the wall, trying to quiet my breathing. The case is slippery with rain and blood from my torn hands. A flashlight beam sweeps past the opening. Lost visual. Spread out. She can't have gone far. They're hunting me like I'm a target in a training exercise. But I wrote the training exercises. I know how they think. I know they'll form a perimeter, collapse it inward, flush me toward the fence line where the third man is probably waiting. I need to disrupt their pattern. I crawl deeper into the submarine hull until I reach a gap, a section where the metal has corroded through, creating an exit into an adjacent destroyer hull. I squeeze through, feel jagged edges tear at my uniform, and emerge into a larger space. This section of the destroyer is flooded. Black water reaches my waist, cold enough to stop my heart. I wade forward, holding the case above my head, toward what looks like a stairwell. Behind me, I hear them enter the submarine tunnel. She went through here. Blood on the metal. I reach the stairwell and climb. My legs are numb from the cold. The stairs are slick, corroded, treacherous. One snaps under my weight and my knee slams into the edge. Pain explodes white hot. I bite down on my tongue to keep from crying out. I reach the upper deck, open to the sky, rain sheeting across the tilted surface. The destroyer is listing at a 45-degree angle. One side touches the ground. The other rises 30 feet in the air. I'm exposed. There. On the destroyer. A gunshot cracks through the rain. The bullet hits the metal 3 feet from me, sparking orange. Suppressed rifle, they're not trying to wound me, that was a kill shot. I run up the angled deck, slipping, using the case for balance. Ahead of me is the destroyer's forward gun turret. Massive, rusted, the barrel pointed at the sky like an accusation. Another shot. This one closer. I feel the displacement of air as it passes my head. I reach the turret and throw myself behind it. The metal is thick enough to stop rifle rounds, for now. She's pinned. Circle around. I want that case. I look at the terrain. The destroyer's high side drops off into a ravine, a section where the salvage crews dug out the ground to access the keel. It's a 20-foot drop into mud and scrap metal. Survivable. Maybe. On my mark, suppressive fire. I don't wait for the mark. I run for the edge and jump. The fall lasts forever. I twist in the air, trying to protect the case. Then I hit. Not mud but water. A flooded excavation pit. I plunge under, the case ripped from my hands by the impact. I surface, gasping, and see the case floating 10 feet away. I thrash toward it, grab it, and haul myself onto a concrete slab that's half submerged. Above me, flashlights sweep the destroyer's edge. Did she jump? Check for a body. I crawl through the mud on my belly, dragging the case, until I reach a drainage culvert, a massive concrete pipe, 3 feet in diameter, leading away from the scrapyard toward the adjacent industrial park. I pull myself inside. The pipe is pitch black. Water flows ankle deep, freezing, carrying the smell of chemicals and decay. I crawl forward, every movement agony. My knee is screaming. My hands are raw. My entire body is shaking. But I'm alive. And I still have the case. Behind me, muffled by distance and concrete, I hear frustrated shouting. Then silence. I crawl for what feels like hours, but is probably only 20 minutes. When I finally emerge from the other end of the pipe, I'm in an alley between 2 abandoned warehouses. I collapse onto the pavement, coughing up black water, the case beside me. My phone is dead. My uniform is destroyed. I'm bleeding from a dozen cuts. But I know 3 things now. Julian didn't forget about the case. He sent people to retrieve it. Which means he knows I found it. Which means I'm out of time. I need help. And there's only one person left who might not turn me away. I pull myself to my feet and start walking toward the shipyard workers district. Toward the man Julian destroyed 3 years ago. Toward Chief Grease Miller. The elite tried to bury me in a scrapyard. They forgot I was the one who taught them how to dig graves. Don't look away, because the officers' ball is tomorrow, and I am bringing receipts. Stay and subscribe to this channel. Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Grease Miller lives in a trailer that smells like motor oil and betrayal. I find it at 3:47, according to the clock on the wall. One of those old military-issue timepieces with the second hand that ticks like a countdown. The trailer sits in the shadow of the naval shipyard's eastern fence, squeezed between an auto salvage lot and a storage facility for decommissioned parts. A single yellow bulb hangs over the door, attracting moths that cast frantic shadows. I knock. The door opens 6 inches, held by a security chain. A shotgun barrel appears in the gap, followed by Miller's face. Weathered, suspicious, a scar running through his left eyebrow from a garage accident 10 years ago. Jesus Christ, cross. He lowers the shotgun. You look like you crawled out of a grave. Close enough, I say. My voice is hoarse from the chemical water I swallowed in the drainage pipe. Can I come in? He studies me for 5 long seconds, taking in the torn uniform, the mud caking every inch of fabric, the blood seeping through my pants where my knee split open. Then he unhooks the chain. Inside, the trailer is cramped but meticulously organized. Tools hang on pegboards in perfect rows. Parts are labeled and sorted in clear bins. A workbench dominates one wall, covered with the disassembled components of what looks like a radio system. Miller gestures to a folding chair. Sit before you fall down. I collapse into the chair. He disappears into the trailer's tiny bathroom and returns with a first aid kit. The real kind, military field grade, not civilian band-aids. He kneels beside me and starts cleaning the gash on my knee without asking permission. They came after you, he says. It's not a question. 3 contractors. Suppressed weapons. They wanted this. I set the Pelican case on the workbench. And they wanted me quiet. Miller's jaw tightens. He applies antiseptic, I hiss through my teeth, and wraps the wound with practiced efficiency. Julian. Who else? He stands, tosses the bloody gauze into a trash bin, and stares at the case. I wondered when someone would finally look inside that thing. My head snaps up. You knew. I suspected. He crosses to a mini fridge, pulls out 2 beers, hands me one. I don't drink it. 3 years ago, Julian had me sign off on equipment logs for a supply convoy headed to Kandahar. Routine stuff. Medical kits, ammunition, weapon optics. Except the numbers didn't match the manifests. When I flagged the discrepancy, he told me to fix it. Make it look clean. And you refused. I refused. Miller takes a long drink. 2 weeks later, I was brought up on charges. Improper maintenance procedures resulting in equipment failure. They found a helicopter rotor I'd signed off on that supposedly had stress fractures. Never mind that I documented it was flight safe 3 times. Never mind that the fractures looked like someone took a crowbar to it after the fact. He was dishonorably discharged. Lost his pension. Lost his career. Julian's godfather signed the discharge papers, I say quietly. The general himself. Miller nods. I tried to fight it. Filed appeals. But who's going to believe a mechanic over a war hero and a 2-star general? So I ended up here, fixing lawnmowers and lying awake wondering if I was crazy. I open the case and spread the contents on his workbench. The medical file. The ledger. The USB drive. Miller reads the vasectomy document first. His eyebrows rise. Then he opens the ledger, and his face goes pale. Son of a bitch, he breathes. He's been stealing from combat supply lines for years. And selling it through Elena Vance. The reunion is theater. The kid is a prop for a compassionate reassignment. They're laundering a black market operation behind a family values narrative. Miller flips through the ledger pages, stops on one entry, taps it with his finger. This convoy. February 2022. I remember this one. They reported it hit by an IED, total loss. But I saw the photos from the ambush site. The blast pattern was wrong. The vehicles were gutted from the inside, not outside. They faked the attack and blamed it on insurgents. He closes the ledger, looks at me with something I haven't seen in days. Validation. You're not crazy, Sarah. You never were. The relief hits me so hard I almost cry. But I don't have time for tears. They're giving him the Medal of Valor tomorrow night, I say. Officers' ball. Full dress ceremony. Press coverage. The whole production. You're going to expose him. Another statement. Not a question. I need to get this evidence in front of cameras they can't turn off. Miller walks to his workbench, moves aside the radio components, and pulls out a black metal case from underneath. He opens it to reveal a piece of equipment I recognize, a signal override device. Military grade, technically illegal for civilian possession, capable of hijacking broadcast frequencies within a quarter-mile radius. You still have that thing? I ask. I built it during my last deployment for emergency comms backup. Figured it might come in handy someday. He closes the case, hands it to me. The officers' ball is broadcast live on the military network for recruitment purposes. If you can get this into their AV booth and activate it, you can override their feed. Broadcast whatever you want to every screen on base, and to the civilian media streaming it online. I take the case. It's heavier than the Pelican case, solid and real. This ends your deniability, I tell him. If they trace the signal. Good. Miller's smile is bitter. Let them come. I've been waiting 3 years to stop being quiet. I stand, my knee screaming in protest. Miller steadies me with a hand on my shoulder. The ball starts at 1900 hours, he says. You've got 16 hours to figure out how to walk into that fortress without getting arrested on sight. I look down at my destroyed uniform, then back at Miller. Do you still have your dress blues? I ask. Miller's dress blues don't fit. He's 4 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier. The jacket hangs loose on my shoulders. The pants require a belt cinched to the last hole. But they're clean. Pressed. The insignia is outdated. His rank from before the discharge, but in dim light, from a distance, they'll pass inspection. I stand in front of the trailer's narrow mirror, barely recognizing myself. My hair is matted with dried mud. I wash it in Miller's utility sink using dish soap, comb it back with my fingers into a tight bun. My face is hollowed out, cheekbones sharp, eyes shadowed with exhaustion and something darker. I look like someone who's been to war. I look like someone who belongs in these blues. Miller sits at his workbench, making final adjustments to the override device. The ball is invitation only, he says without looking up. Checkpoints at every entrance. MPs scanning credentials. How are you getting inside? I don't answer immediately. I'm staring at my reflection, at the uniform that's both armor and disguise. I'm not sneaking in, I say finally. Miller's hands stop moving. He turns to look at me. I'm walking through the front gate, I continue. In dress blues. Carrying evidence that proves the guest of honor is a criminal. If they try to stop me, I'll make a scene big enough that the press outside will notice. That's suicide. That's theater. I turn from the mirror. Julian taught me that. Control the narrative. Make them react to you. I pick up the Pelican case, check the contents one more time. The medical file. The ledger. The USB drive with, according to Miller's quick scan, encrypted files that likely contain additional evidence. Transaction records. Photos. Communications. Everything I need to destroy him. Miller hands me the override device. The activation sequence is simple. Power on, select frequency, press execute. It'll take 30 seconds to lock onto their broadcast signal. Once it does, anything you plug into the input port will replace their feed. The USB drive. Exactly. But Sarah, he grabs my wrist before I can turn away. Once you activate that device, every signal detector on base will know exactly where you are. You'll have maybe 2 minutes before security converges. 2 minutes is enough. Enough for what? To get arrested? To disappear? I meet his eyes. Enough to make sure the truth gets out before they bury it. He releases my wrist, but his expression is pained. You're burning your life down for this. My life was already burned. I adjust the uniform jacket, smooth the front. I'm just making sure they burn too. I walk to the trailer door, cases in hand. Dawn is breaking, a gray, cold light that turns the shipyard into a landscape of silhouettes. Somewhere across the base, Julian is waking up in his reassigned officer's quarters. Elena is probably there with him. The boy is probably confused, wondering who these people are, why he's been dragged into this performance. I wonder if they'll let him leave when it's over. I wonder if any of us will. Miller appears beside me, hands me a set of keys. My truck. It'll get you to the base entrance. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He lights a cigarette, the flame illuminating his scarred face. Thank me if you make it out alive. I climb into the truck, a battered Ford with 200,000 miles and a suspension that groans under the weight. The engine turns over on the third try. I drive toward the base as the sun rises behind me, casting my shadow long across the highway. By 18:30, I'm parked 3 blocks from the officers' club, watching the guests arrive in luxury sedans and dress uniforms that actually fit. At 18:45, I check the override device one more time. Green light. Ready. At 18:55, I step out of the truck. At 18:58, I walk toward the gate. The MP recognizes me immediately. His hand drops to his sidearm. Ma'am, you're not authorized. I'm a guest, I say, my voice carrying the command authority of 7 years in tactical operations. Check the list. He doesn't check the list. He lifts his radio. But before he can speak, another voice cuts through the night. Let her through. I turn. It's Corporal David Rains, a young MP I trained 3 years ago during combat readiness exercises. I taught him room clearing tactics. I wrote his promotion recommendation. He's standing at the second checkpoint, hand on the gate release. She's cleared, Rain says again, louder this time, looking directly at the first MP officer's discretion. The first MP hesitates. Protocol wars with uncertainty. Then he steps aside. I walk through the gate, through the shadow of the guard tower, and into the golden light spilling from the officers' club entrance. The ball has already started. I can hear music, a string quartet playing something classical and empty. I can see figures moving past the windows, silhouettes in formal uniforms, champagne glasses catching the light. I clutch the cases tighter and walk toward the doors. Behind me I hear Corporal Rains whisper, "Give them hell, Commander." The ballroom is a cathedral of lies. Crystal chandeliers hang from a vaulted ceiling, each one dripping with light that refracts into 1,000 false stars. The floor is polished marble, white with gold veining, so pristine it reflects the guests like a mirror. Long tables draped in white linen hold champagne towers and hors d'oeuvres arranged like military formations. Every surface gleams. Every person sparkles. I step inside, and the music doesn't stop, but something else does. Conversation. It dies in a ripple, spreading outward from the entrance like a shock wave. Heads turn. Eyes widen. Someone drops a glass. The sound of crystal shattering is obscenely loud in the sudden quiet. I'm still wearing Miller's oversized dress blues. They're clean, but they're wrong, dated insignia, imperfect fit. And my boots. My boots are caked with dried mud from the iron graveyard, leaving dark prints on the white marble with every step I take. I walk forward anyway. The crowd parts instinctively, creating a corridor. I see their faces as I pass. Shock, disgust, fascination. A colonel I once briefed on drone strike protocols. A major whose fiancée I saved during a medical evacuation. A captain who owes his career to a report I wrote absolving him of responsibility for a friendly fire incident. None of them meet my eyes. At the far end of the ballroom, elevated on a stage beneath an enormous American flag, stands Julian. He's wearing his full dress uniform, every medal, every ribbon, every insignia polished to perfection. The Medal of Valor box sits on a podium beside him, waiting for the ceremony. To his left stands the general, holding a microphone. To his right stands Elena, resplendent in a gold evening gown that probably cost more than I made in a year. The boy is absent, likely backstage, waiting for his cue. Julian sees me. His smile freezes. For one perfect second, I see the mask crack, see the panic, the calculation, the rage. Then he recovers. He leans toward the microphone, his voice booming through the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. My estranged wife has been struggling with some personal issues. If security could please. I'm not here for you, Julian." My voice cuts through his, sharp and clear. I don't shout. I don't need to. 7 years of giving orders in combat zones taught me how to project authority. I'm here for the truth. The general steps forward, his face purple with fury. "Commander Cross, you are in violation of." "I'm not Commander Cross anymore, remember? You discharged me." I keep walking, moving toward the stage. Security personnel are mobilizing along the walls. 3, 4, 5 of them converging. "You stripped my rank for embarrassing the returning hero. For disrupting his perfect homecoming." I stop 10 feet from the stage. The cases are heavy in my hands. "But I found something interesting last night," I continue. "In a decommissioned cargo plane. In a waterproof box your hero forgot he left behind." Julian's face goes white. Elena's hand tightens on his arm. The general keys his radio. "Security, remove her. Now." The security team closes in. 2 from the left, 3 from the right. But I'm not looking at them. I'm looking at the AV booth, visible through a glass panel on the second-floor balcony. I can see the technician inside, adjusting the live broadcast feed. I can see the equipment racks, the mixing board, the broadcast monitors showing multiple camera angles. I need to reach that booth. She's insane. Julian shouts into the microphone, playing to the crowd. She's been harassing us, making false accusations about my son. He's not your son. My voice is ice. He can't be your son. The room goes silent again. Julian laughs, a theatrical, pitying sound. This is what jealousy does, folks. This is what happens when you had a vasectomy 7 years ago, Julian. April 17, 2018. Irreversible. The medical records are in this case. I lift the Pelican case. The boy is 5 years old. You want to explain that math to the press? Elena moves suddenly, not toward me, but toward the stage exit, heels clicking rapidly on the wood. The general grabs the microphone from Julian, his voice thundering. This is slander. Security. Neutralize her immediately. The security team rushes me. But I'm already moving. I drop the Pelican case. It hits the marble and slides across the floor, content spilling. Medical files, ledger pages, photographs scattering like evidence at a crime scene. The security team instinctively looks down, distracted for half a second. Half a second is enough. I run. Not toward the exit. Toward the service stairs leading to the second-floor balcony. Toward the AV booth. I have the override device. I have the USB drive. And I have 2 minutes before they catch me. Behind me, I hear Julian screaming. Stop her. She has classified material. Stop her now. I hit the stairs at full speed, my injured knee screaming, and I don't look back. The AV booth door is locked. I don't slow down. I hit it with my shoulder, the momentum of my sprint plus 130 pounds of fury. The lock is civilian grade, designed to keep out drunk officers, not someone trained in close-quarters combat. The door splinters inward. The technician inside, a young specialist, maybe 22 years old, spins around, headphones falling off. What the hell? Get out. I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. He looks at my face, at the override device in my hand, at the blood seeping through my pant leg. He gets out. I slam the door shut behind him and jam a chair under the handle. It won't hold long, but it doesn't need to. I drop the override device onto the mixing board, flip the power switch. Green light. Initializing. Through the booth's glass panel, I can see the ballroom below. Security is flooding up the stairs. Julian is shouting into the microphone, pointing at the booth. The crowd is in chaos, some people fleeing toward the exits, others pressing closer to see what's happening. Camera crews, both military and civilian press, are capturing everything. Good. Let them watch. The override device beeps. Scanning frequencies. I plug the USB drive into my phone, the one I charged in Miller's trailer, and connect it to the device's input port. The screen fills with file names, transaction records, encrypted communications, photographs timestamped and GPS tagged. The device beeps again. Signal locked. Ready to broadcast. Someone pounds on the door. Open up. This is a direct order. I press execute. For 3 seconds. Nothing happens. Then every screen in the ballroom flickers. The massive display behind the stage, the one showing the live broadcast logo and the ceremony schedule, goes black. The monitors throughout the venue cut out. Even the phones in people's hands, those streaming the event, freeze. Then the image appears. Document 1. Medical record. It fills the screen, 8 feet tall, impossible to ignore. The official letterhead. Julian's name. The procedure date. The surgeon's signature. The final note. Procedure confirmed irreversible. The crowd gasps. Someone in the ballroom yells, "Is that real?" On stage, Julian is frozen. His mouth opens and closes, but no sound comes out. Elena has stopped moving, her hand clutched over her mouth. The general is screaming into his radio, but no one is listening to him anymore. Everyone is staring at the screen. I advance to the next file. Document 2. The ledger. Page after page, scrolling slowly. Dates. Locations. Stolen items. Dollar amounts. The handwriting is clearly Julian's. I've seen it on 1,000 reports, 1,000 requisition forms. Then the camera angles shift. Footage from the USB drive. Security camera video from supply depots. Julian loading boxes into transport vehicles at night. Elena meeting with men in civilian clothes, exchanging briefcases. A photo of the general shaking hands with a known cartel intermediary at a diplomatic dinner that was never reported. The ballroom erupts. Journalists are shouting questions. Officers are reaching for their phones, some calling their commands, others taking photos of the screen. The civilian press is broadcasting live, capturing the scandal in real time. The door behind me explodes inward. The chair shatters. Security floods the booth. 4 MPs, weapons drawn. Hands up. Now. I raise my hands, step away from the equipment. The override device is still running, still broadcasting. They'll have to physically destroy it to stop the feed. One of the MPs, a sergeant I don't recognize, grabs my arm, wrenches it behind my back. Pain shoots up to my shoulder. You're under arrest for. For what? I ask calmly. Showing evidence of criminal activity? Exposing treason? Or embarrassing your CO? He doesn't answer. He forces me out of the booth, down the stairs, back into the ballroom. The scene below has transformed. Julian is no longer on the stage. He's trying to force his way through the crowd toward the exit, but journalists are blocking his path, cameras and microphones thrust in his face. Major Thorne, can you explain the medical records? Major Thorne, is the child yours? Major Thorne, comment on the black market allegations. Elena has disappeared entirely, probably slipped out during the chaos. The general is on stage, trying to restore order, but his voice is drowned out by the noise. Then he sees me. His face contorts with rage. He reaches for his hip. He's wearing his sidearm. Time slows. He draws the weapon, a Beretta M9, standard officer issue. He raises it, barrel pointing directly at my chest. The MPs holding me freeze, uncertain whether to release me or hold me as a shield. You ungrateful, the general starts, his finger moving to the trigger. A taser dart hits him in the neck. The general convulses, drops the weapon, collapses onto the stage in a heap. The ballroom erupts in screams. Security personnel rush the stage, weapons drawn, shouting conflicting orders. I turn. Corporal Rains is standing near the ballroom entrance, taser still aimed, his face pale but determined. Behind him, 3 other junior MPs have their hands on their sidearms, watching the senior officers with expressions of betrayal and disgust. The sergeant holding me releases my arm. She's not under arrest, he says quietly, more to himself than anyone else. He's staring at the screen, which is now showing a photo of the general accepting a briefcase from a man identified in the caption as a cartel money launderer. On the stage, Julian has stopped trying to escape. He's on his knees, surrounded by MPs. Someone has cuffed him. He's crying, real tears this time, not the theatrical kind. I can explain, he sobs. It was for us. It was for our future. Sarah, please, I can explain. I walk toward him. The crowd parts again, but differently this time. Not from disgust or shock. From respect. From recognition. I stop beside the stage, looking down at the man I spent 7 years protecting. The man who walked past me in front of the world. The man who tried to have me killed in a scrapyard. You don't get to say my name, I tell him. I pull the manila envelope from inside my jacket. Somehow, miraculously, still intact. I drop it on the stage beside him. Divorce papers, I say. Sign them. Or don't. Either way, you're dead to me. I turn and walk toward the exit. Behind me, I hear Julian screaming, the general being read his rights, journalists shouting for statements. I hear the chaos of a cover-up collapsing, of institutional corruption being dragged into the light. I don't look back. Corporal Rains holds the door open for me as I pass. "Thank you, ma'am," he whispers. I step out into the night. The rain has stopped. The military operates on a simple principle: control the narrative or become the narrative. By sunrise, the story is everywhere. War hero exposed in black market scandal, New York Times. Stolen valor, Major's son not his own, medical records show, Washington Post. General implicated in cartel connection, Associated Press. Female officer's evidence destroys Medal of Valor ceremony, Military Times. I watch the coverage from Miller's trailer, wrapped in a blanket that smells like diesel fuel and redemption. My phone has 847 missed calls, 3,000 plus text messages, and 200 plus voicemails. I delete them all without reading. Except one. From Corporal D. Rains, "They're reopening your discharge case. JAG wants your testimony." "We believe you, Commander." Miller hands me coffee. Black, military strong. "You're a hero," he says, settling into the chair across from me. "I'm unemployed," I correct, possibly facing charges for the override device stunt. "You exposed a traitor." He lights a cigarette, exhales slowly. "That's not a crime. That's a service." On the television, footage plays from the ballroom. The moment the medical records appeared on screen, the general drawing his weapon, Julian being led away in handcuffs. The commentators are calling it the most dramatic military scandal in decades. They still don't understand. This wasn't about scandal. It wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to disappear. My phone buzzes. A new message, this time from an unknown number. The boy is safe. Returned to his actual mother, Elena's sister. Child services involved. Thank you for protecting him too. I stare at that message for a long time. I never thought about the boy, not as a person, only as evidence. But he was a victim too. A prop in someone else's scheme. I hope he forgets this. I hope he gets to be a child again, somewhere far from spotlights and lies. Miller turns off the television. The silence is profound. "What now?" he asks. I think about the question. I think about the iron graveyard, the rusted planes, the skeletal cranes, all those discarded machines that once served, once mattered, once flew. Now I testify, I say. I help JAG build their case. I make sure every name in that ledger gets investigated. And after, I pause. After, I figure out who I am when I'm not his alibi. Miller nods, understanding in his scarred face. You'll land on your feet, Cross. You always do. I stand, testing my injured knee. It holds. Everything hurts, but everything works. I walk to the trailer door, open it to the morning light. Somewhere across the base, Julian is in a holding cell, facing court-martial. The general is suspended, his career destroyed. Elena is in federal custody, cooperating in exchange for reduced sentencing. And I'm here. Alive. Vindicated. Free. I look back at Miller. Thank you. For believing me when no one else would. Thank you for proving I wasn't crazy. He raises his coffee mug in a mock salute. Give 'em hell at JAG, Commander. I step outside. The air smells like salt and possibility. My phone buzzes again. This time it's from the Judge Advocate General's office. Commander Cross, your presence is requested for testimony. Your service record is being reviewed for reinstatement. Effective immediately, your rank is restored pending investigation conclusion. I read it twice. Commander Cross. Not, Julian's wife. Not the jealous ex. Not the problem. Commander Cross. I forward the message to Miller, then start walking toward the base entrance. Toward the JAG building. Toward the testimony that will finish what I started. Behind me, the iron graveyard sits silent in the morning light, a monument to things that served their purpose and were discarded. But I'm not a discarded thing. I never was. I was the weapon they forgot they created. The intelligence officer who knew where every body was buried. The tactical mind who planned their victories. And when they tried to erase me, I did what I was trained to do. I completed the mission. As I walk through the gate, the same gate they escorted me through in disgrace, Corporal Rains snaps to attention and salutes. I return it. Then I keep walking, boots striking pavement with purpose, the sun rising at my back, casting my shadow long and unbroken across the base I helped defend. Julian was right about one thing. I was never just his wife. I was his alibi. And now he doesn't have one. If this story hit you in the chest, if you've ever been erased, discarded, or told you were too much, subscribe and also tell us where you are watching from. Because the world needs to know. The people they underestimate are often the ones who've been holding everything together. Don't let them rewrite your story. You write it yourself.